All right, how about everyone? We've got Lester Carlson, who is the director of the Budget Bureau. He just returned from Washington, D.C. on a trip with the governor, but he's here today to talk a little bit about the fiscal year 2023 budget, which has been submitted to the legislature. Lester, first of all, tell us a little bit about the 23 budget proposal. And I understand that it's about $50 million more than the fiscal year 22 budget.
Thanks, Nestor. Glad to be here, and Happy KUAM. Nestor, for over a year, we have been seeing very strong general fund collections, such that we ended fiscal year 21 with about a $62 million revenue amount collected over the adopted level. We're continuing to see that strong general fund performance. The governor's budget message makes a statement that the first 3 months of fiscal 22, the actual collections were $35 million over the adopted level. We took a snapshot just before this interview for the January amounts, and it's about $11 million over what we anticipated. So we're about $47 million ahead of the general fund adopted revenues to date. That led the governor to be very comfortable in putting together a very similar proposal that we tried to get the legislature to adopt for fiscal year 22, which was a higher BPT amount and a higher corporate amount, along with a little bit, actually, maybe not corporate, but withholding. And they wanted to be conservative, even though we were showing signs of continued general fund strength. There was some concerns about the cessation of KUA and what that would do. I understand there might be still some thoughts that without KUA, we're doomed, but we're not seeing that. The penchant for people to say that residents are going to spend less isn't showing up in tax collections, and it's not showing up in the grocery store, and it's not showing up at Island Girl Coffee.
But the conventional wisdom is that the federal financial assistance faucet, if you will, has essentially been turned off, and so that's going to be felt a little bit further down the road, and so that will be into fiscal year 23, and that's the source of their concern.
I don't believe that's the conventional thinking. I think that's the boogeyman, mentality, to be quite honest with you. Because if you look at the CRER, you see what it is that across the major tax collection categories, the strength, including Nestor withholding. So we're getting a lot of money in withholding with the PUA having ceased for all intents and purposes. Late last year, with just a few like mop-up payments being made for people who had maybe some last-minute claims. But corporate income tax, BPT is especially strong, and that was a point of discussion with the legislature last year. They just couldn't buy our BPT numbers, and the higher BPT results in about $4 million more because you have to carve out 6.19% for the pharmaceutical fund that goes straight to GMH. That basically bolsters GMH's operating revenues by $4 million over fiscal year 22. And we're not seeing a cessation. We're in the middle of Cope North. There's 2,500 troops. We've been, we have a plethora of military construction contracts going on. We've got the big development, in Tamuning, the Don Quixote. I see construction all over. And one of the things that people really need to understand is that construction drives the local economy. And there is so much construction work that people who want to work can have a job either, in construction per se or in affiliated services that support the actual guys with the hard hats being outside. We just believe that right now you have people who are trying to get programs that were not part of the fiscal year 22 budget, you know, made into a reality. But you know, we're going to have an issue if we don't like address these things, because we pass a balanced budget, and we're looking at things outside of the budget that we're committed to helping with. But there needs to just be some realization that, like war claims, we're committed to $10 million. You know, we know that we're going to end the fiscal year when the audit comes out more than $10 million ahead for fiscal year 21. And we have no problems with allocating that money for war claims. Some of the other programs that we're doing are not in the budget, and are just like, okay, well, if you can find it. Well, that's not really how, you know, a spending plan should be put together. So when you tell me about conventional wisdom, well, where's the conventional wisdom in passing measures that are not included in an appropriations bill or in a supplemental appropriations bill? You know, is somebody going to look at BPT and say, you know, we're trending strong, and maybe I want to carve out a piece of that for something? I'm not seeing that. So quite frankly, what I'm seeing is a very, very strong general fund performance. We still have issues with tourism. So GVB and Customs and Quarantine, two mainstay agencies that depend on special funds, the Tourist Attraction Fund for GVB and the Customs and Quarantine Inspection Fund for Customs, those numbers aren't there. So in the governor's executive budget, she allocated some general fund money to be continued to be available to Customs. This is, I think, our third year in a row where we subsidize Customs. And she's also provided money for GVB from the general fund. So she's taking the $72 million available for operations over and above fiscal 22 and spreading that into also the needs in special fund areas that we used to not have to fund.
So you're still confident of the revenue projections, even despite the probability that tourism, which is the second leg of our two-leg stool, if you will, is not going to come back in any meaningful way in the upcoming year?
I'm very, very comfortable with what it is that we've been trying to say. And I think if you look at what the governor has blessed and what Edward Byrne and I have tried to get the legislature to, you know, adopt, you know, I think our numbers have been and will continue to be born with more support behind them than conservative measures.
Okay, I know you don't like to do the what if, but what if the revenues don't, you don't realize the revenues as projected? Would the governor use ARP funds to supplement agency operational budgets?
Well, one of the messages, and it's actually on the first page of her letter in the executive budget request transmission, is that the legislature should look at this, the ARP funds, as aid and not as a means to reduce agency requirements in FY23. Can she use funds to be able to subsidize an agency's operations? She can, but she's not looking at doing that because we firmly believe that we continue to bring in revenues sufficient to support public health, public safety, and public education. Now, the ARP is a transformational fund source that needs to be used to take us from where we are to where we need to be, and not to say, okay, let's move sideways and let's backfill. Let's try to get our parks in better shape. Let's try to continue to make sure that we've got technology issues addressed. So you'll see technology dollars that are being allocated across the board. We're looking at future needs, not just the operational needs. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to say, okay, instead of paving the road, right, we're going to just put, asphalt in the potholes. We don't want to do that. And we don't believe that we're going to have to do that.
Okay, we took a look at the letter that you sent, the report that you sent to the speaker on ARP, and it appears that there is a certain amount of money that's been encumbered, a certain money that's been spent, but there's a lot of money that's still unspent. Can you give us an update on that?
Sure, that was by design, Nestor. These funds are available to December of 2024. This is not supposed to be something that is just used without regard for future growth needs. And a lot of the funding that you see that hasn't been touched yet has a future design to it. Department of Public Works, for example, there is a lot of money in road paving, things that we haven't been able to do much of in the last few years because of budgetary constraints. Especially when it comes to secondary and tertiary roads. So we have funding to do that, to be able to assist people at the residential level, not just handouts, but also a hand getting to your house and making sure that the roads, are conducive to allowing for that, those transportation needs to occur smoothly. So is it true?
So is it accurate? You've got about 400 million plus in unspent ARP?
Yeah, but you have to take away the $182 million that's the governor has currently allocated for the hospital. So, in rough numbers, there's over $200 million that's been spent.
Yeah. Would the governor be able to use some of this money for like direct financial assistance, similar to what we handed out previously?
Nestor, take a look at the report. There's the LEAP program. There's the Guide to Business Assistance program. There's a number of public assistance programs on the second page. And I think people tend to forget how much of the CARES Act and the ARP money has gone directly either to residents or to businesses. So, we're at a situation where I really believe that people need to stop and think about what it is that she's provided to the legislature and the breadth of the programs that are being supported. And they do include, we're still paying for credit card fees. And that's because we want commerce to continue. So we, in the beginning of COVID, we didn't want people walking up and handing paper to each other and making payments. So we made a conscious effort to be able to waive the credit card fee to encourage more electronic payments, the more timely receipt of payments. And once it's on your card, we don't have to worry about bounced checks and things of that nature. So there's a lot of things that are there in direct support of local residents and local businesses.
But will there be any more?
We haven't exhausted the programs yet.
Okay. So on another topic, the governor went before the Senate, a Senate committee, and asked for a specific additional money for Guam and the other territories. What does she need that money for?
Nestor, the territories, by definition, we're not, on par. We all know that. We can't vote for president, and many, many other things. So what the governor is asking for, and what the other members, the other governors that testified along with her, are just asking for more recognition of programs that are afforded to the states, that they just automatically include the territories. Social Security. Why can't we get Social Security? We're very thankful for EITC. And there are still a number of things that we need to be able to address. That one of them being, and she brought this to everybody's attention, the governor did in DC. There's this huge rollout of broadband money that doesn't specifically state territories in it, in the IIJA, the infrastructure and whatever the other I is, the Jobs Act, right? So there is some recognition of the fact that in some of the authorizations, the same concession, that was given to us wasn't given to us across the board. And that's the kind of thinking in general that the governor was reminding the Senate committee that the territories continue to have to make, a point about. And we shouldn't have to make the point about it, because, we're all here in support of each other.
All right, Lester, and finally getting back to the budget, I believe the agencies have until mid-March to
Public safety. And
Sorry.
we have
Go ahead.
addressed nurse pay. That's across the board at the government level, including like GCC, DOE, and other areas that have nurses, right? We've also been able to incorporate the law enforcement adjustments in the FY23 budget. So the agency spending plan will be predicated on the additional personnel requirements necessary to be able to, take those 23 personnel requirements, long overdue, and effectuate them. So, we're spending a good amount of money in addressing, first the nurses, now the law enforcement, and I'm sure we're going to get something on the teachers pretty soon. And we believe that they're very valid and very long overdue adjustments. But I also will tell you that these adjustments we believe we can do, and they continue to put money in the economy. So this is not a dire straits situation. This is all of us lining up at places like Island Girl Coffee, which my wife really likes, by the way. But I'm amazed at the length of time that people will spend in line for, something as, it's not a necessity as much as it is, like a treat. But people are doing it. The car dealers can't keep new inventory in stock. I mean, you really got to take a look at our what is going on and just like put Tucumán aside for just a minute and look at how we've been doing throughout COVID and how we're adjusting to take general fund resources and place them in other areas of the government to be able to provide the services that people expect and should get.
And how about the rest of GovGuam? And speaking of pay raises, is there a plan to do that comprehensive hay-type study?
You're gonna have to ask Edward Byrne about that. That's kind of outside of my wheelhouse, but I think that there are a lot of things that are being undertaken by DOA with respect to personnel. There's a bunch of these adjustments in pay that have to be addressed. There's recruitments for the fire department. There's other areas that have recruitments in place. There's a lot of work that's being done, and it all basically ends up over at DOA and being, inputted into what turns out to be somebody's paycheck.
All right, Lester.
And we've been making very timely payments. Our bills are paid in time. Our vendor payments are way down from what they used to be. The government is operating under the Leon Guerrero Tenoro administration very, very efficiently and effectively.
So Lester, despite the slowdown in tourism, despite the ending basically of most federal direct assistance, you are still very bullish about the fiscal year 2023 economy.
The construction sector, the business sector, the retail sector, all of those are performing very well and have been. And I think that they will continue to grow. We're going to start to see Marines, on island pretty soon. That's going to, also add to our economy. We're going to see continued military construction. We're going to start to see, who knows, maybe a new hospital pretty soon. So there's going to be, a lot of work in construction. And construction is just like the bellwether of all economic activities. And yes, we'd love to have the tourists back. We would, without a doubt. And when that is possible, because a lot of it, Nestor, is out of our control. It's like we're here for them, but it's what they have to do on the return that still needs to get ironed out. But our doors are open, our restaurants are open.
Yeah, those decisions will be made in Tokyo and Seoul. All right, Lester Carlson, he is the director of the Bureau of Budget and Management Research. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next time.
All right, thanks, Nestor.
Take care.